Today's video, we're going to be talking about the law of assumption versus the law of attraction. Which one is better for you to create the life you really want? Which one should you be using? Well, in this video, I'm going to share exactly what these two things do so you can better understand how you can utilize their power and, more importantly, when you can leverage it to your advantage. So let's get started. If your journey is anything like mine has been, it started with the law of attraction. Whatever it is that you'd like to attract, you'll need to have thoughts in order to attract it to you. Now, starting out, I would watch tons and tons of videos and I would hear all about the thoughts changing, think positively, and I would apply it to my life, thinking about love, thinking about abundance, and things would be going really good. I'd feel positive, I'd be thinking positive, and then something would happen out of the blue and I would not think positive. It would not inspire thoughts of abundance or love. And I get really frustrated with it. If you really look at the overarching idea of the law of attraction, it would help you to look back on the origin, the New Thought movement, which was about the late 1800s. And that's the idea of that whatever you think about is what you attract, or whatever you expect to happen is what you'll actually attract. If those differ, your expectations will actually be what you attract. And a lot of times, unfortunately, with the law of attraction, it stays so superficial that whatever you're thinking, that is what is going to manifest. But if you understand what manifestation really means, the etymology of the word is simply to reveal your internal world. Whatever is invisible internally, it will be shown to you in your outside world. Now, that doesn't mean you're bad or good. It's simply echoing an energy. And if you would like to change what you attract, you'll need to change your energy to do so. So to be clear, it's not so much that the law of attraction doesn't work. It very much works. It is one of the 12 laws of the universe. But what I see other people struggle with, and what I failed to understand early on, was really understanding where I was attracting from. Because when you understand this and really maybe shift over to the idea of what it is you expect to happen, that's when you'll really start to understand where and what you're actually attracting into your life. So if you feel like you're not good enough, if you've had a repetition of failed relationships or a lot of lack in terms of money, you expect for people to disappoint you, or you expect to never have enough, that you're not good enough at the end of it. If you expect that, that's what the energy you're going to be drawing to you, which leads us now into the law of assumption. Now, the law of assumption comes from Neville Goddard, and his idea was whatever you assume to be true, that is what you are going to see in your outside circumstances. An assumption is anything you give permission or consent to be true about you. So just the same as if you have the idea that you aren't good enough. You give that idea permission and consent, and that it's not just a superficial, I assume that I have $1 billion in my bank account and I assume that everyone in the world wants to date me. Now, that's not an assumption. That's an idea of an assumption, but an assumption happens at the level of consciousness. This is where so many people miss the power of the law of assumption. And Neville Goddard talked so much in his writing, in his books, about consciousness. And what can you think about consciousness? A level of awareness. And you can even think about a consciousness map. And this has to do with levels of emotion. Levels of awareness is about yourself, the stories you tell yourself, your belief system, whatever language you'd like to say or use that resonates most with you, you can use. But to understand that the law of assumption is whatever you give permission or consent. So if you had an experience when you were growing up and an adult around you told you that you weren't good enough, told you, why can't you be like them? You would think, oh, that person over there is good, that must make me bad. And because you don't have any sort of skills, higher level thinking, because you're a child and no one does, you could store it as, I'm not as good as that person. So early on, your sweet mind is getting shaped to think of a distortion, that assumption that I must be not good as them, not understanding, wow, this parent seems like they don't have the emotional space or maturity to take care of a child and meet their needs. So them acting out their shit on you led you to create a distorted view of yourself, which would be that assumption that you're giving permission or consent. Again, that authority to change it is outside of you. And I want to visualize visually show you what this looks like so you better understand. Here you are, an impressionable brain, alpha brainwave, which is literally the brainwave of the subconscious. And here's this adult who needs to take care of you for your very survival. So automatically they have the authority. So in this dynamic, you check in with them to see how you're supposed to relate, how you connect, how you get your needs met, and how the world works. So in that example, if they kept comparing you to a sibling or comparing you to other kids, that you should do better, and that could be from a very unloving place, just making you feel shitty because they had their own shit, or maybe they meant well and they wanted you to do better so that you would have a good life, but not understanding, not having the emotional maturity to understand, oh, how is this affecting my child? How are they actually perceiving it? It could have either been a real threat to not getting your needs met or a perceived threat. So that is vital, because then you're going to assume, oh, okay, I must not be good enough. And that literally, that's going to start to create that assumption. And that assumption is going to start being that electromagnetic signature. Now we're going to come back to the law of attraction. The law of attraction means that whatever energy you're sending out, it is what you're going to attract. And if we cross that back over with Neville Goddard, he says the feeling above all is the secret. If you want to change your life, tap into the feeling of whatever it is that you're wanting to tap into. If it's love, start being or feeling love. Why? Because feeling is going to override thought. If we rewind back to the law of attraction, remember that it's not only what you think, but more importantly, what you expect. So that expectation is going to be an energetic signature. And a way to understand it is to understand that the law of attraction is talking about an energetic, the what. You are attracting whoever it is that you are being. Whatever energy that you are sending out, you're going to attract that which you are being. Not what you want, not what you hope for, but what you're being. Now the good news is you can shift who you're being when you become aware of it. Now, when you think about the law of assumption, it's going to be more about the how. How are you going to attract it? You're going to attract it through your assumptions. And again, synonymous with this will be those expectations. What is it that you're assuming that is to be true? That consent and permission based on an experience that's very real, that you had a very valid feelings about. But if you're still stuck in the distortion of that lower level mind of yours of why that happened, because if you can shift the why that you give on why that happened, that, oh, I wasn't good enough, or if I was better and I was deserving, then that parent or then that thing wouldn't have happened, or I would have gotten what I needed. It had nothing to do with you. So if you can start to shift the how, which are the assumptions and expectations, that's when you're going to be tapping into the power of what you're attracting. So if you can start to see that it's not so much that the law of attraction is better or worse than the law of assumption, they all work together. And when you can start to understand how they work together, you can leverage the power of them. Starting to understand, okay, what is it that I assume to be true? All right. What is it that I expect to happen when it comes to love, when it comes to money, when it comes to me getting my needs met? Oh, I expect it to never happen. Oh, interesting. Why is that? Another way you can get information is starting to look at what you're attracting, reverse engineer it. I keep finding people who are emotionally unavailable, which was my situation. I keep finding people who don't have space to meet my needs. So that is a self-fulfilling prophecy of what I am attracting, because I am being a person who doesn't value myself enough to assume that somebody else would be willing or wanting to meet my need. So since I keep chasing outside of myself to find that part of me so I feel whole and complete, I emotionally ghost myself. And what do I attract? People who emotionally ghosted me. And it wasn't until I changed and really started to understand my expectations and assumptions was I able to start tapping into the energy that I was attracting from. The more you get into it, even though it's painful, even though it's not the most fun thing, when you shift your energy, you change what you attract. When you change your assumptions and expectations, you change your energy. It all is interconnected and works together. And the more you understand what's going on, the more you can understand who who you're being, the more you can start to tap into cutting the cords of why you believe it, from going from the origins of where it was first created. And understand too that when you're a child, those interpersonal relationships heavily shape your mind. Your mind is your perceptions, your beliefs, the way that you see the world. When you change that, literally, the world you see changes. This is what I did to allow myself to attract, changing my assumptions and expectations about my own value, re-reasoning, looking back on past situations on why I wasn't worthy, why that person wasn't able to do that. It wasn't because of me. Oh, I understand. Oh, I see that they were going through a lot, and I really had nothing to do with that. And when I cut that cord, when I shifted that assumption, and it shifted my expectations. And when I did that, I was sending out a new electromagnetic signature. And therefore, I was able to start attracting a completely different type of person into my life. One that matched my energy, which was emotionally available, which valued me because I was doing that. These two powerful laws work together. The more you can understand them, the more you apply them to your life, the more your entire life will change. Being able to apply this in your life is the next step. And this two-step transformational process right here is going to show you exactly how you can shift your reality. Thank you so much for watching. I love y'all. If you like the video, click like. If you haven't done so already, join the community, and I will see you on the next one.